Welcome back. In today's video I got something a little different for you. For today I am starting up a brand new series in which we'll be debunking historical myths. And in this video we'll be debunking 3 of those myths. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, for our first myth we have Marie Antoinette saying let them eat cake. This I can say is false. There are no historical evidence that states Marie Antoinette actually said let them eat cake. But there is a similar quote that was found in the book called Confessions, written by, oh boy, how do you pronounce this name? Alright, bear with me for a second. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Please tell me I pronounced that correctly. I think I did. I hope I did. But anyways, and in it he wrote about a great princess who actually said this quote. And it said, oh, here we go. How do you say this? Okay, I really need to learn French. Alright, you know what? I'm just going to give you the translation, because obviously I cannot speak French. But the translation is, let them eat brioche. Which, according to my research, brioche is a rich, buttery bread that had some similar traits to cake. I guess that's where they get let them eat cake. I guess. But how did the quote become attached to Marie Antoinette? It wasn't until after Marie Antoinette's death that the quote became associated with her. Now I'm assuming that people saw the book by Rousseau and they saw a great princess and they automatically assumed that it was Marie Antoinette. The truth is, Marie Antoinette was born in 1755. The book was written in 1765 and was published in 1782. But in 1765, Marie Antoinette was around 9 to 10 years old, and she was not living in France at that time. The quote became associated with her to basically highlight her extravagant and indifference to the French peasantry. But in reality, she was aware of the poor suffering, and she was very charitable. But the quote was used as propaganda to the French monarchy as the opposition began to grow. So in the end, Marie Antoinette never did say, let them eat cake. Alright, for our second myth, we have Vikings wearing horned helmets. This too, I can also say is false. But this is a good one. I like this one. The image of Vikings wearing horned helmets came around in the 1800s in Richard Wagner's 1870s operas, for which in it he had some costumes that had horned Viking helmets. But in reality, the Vikings never did wear horned helmets, for they would have given them a massive disadvantage in combat, or they would have gotten caught up on branches and their weapons. So they stuck to the typical cone helmet that was made out of iron or leather. To make it easier, I'll put a picture on the screen that shows a Viking helmet. Now the image of horned Viking helmets started growing, and it is shown on one of the NFL team's mascots, the Minnesota Vikings, which they depict a Viking wearing a horned helmet, and each player has a horn painted on their helmet. So long story short, the Vikings never did wear horned helmets. Alright, for our third myth, we have Napoleon was short. The truth is, Napoleon was not short. He was average height. He stood about 5'6", 5'7", and the average height at that time period was around 5'6" to 5'7". Now the myth came from the misunderstanding of the French measurements, which in the French measurements he stood 5'2". In the British, they started this myth and they took it, hey, he's short. He's just a short little guy. Which in reality he was 5'6". Now he did have a nickname called Little Corporal, and the British, they took this and basically saying that it was a reference to his height. But in reality, it was given by his soldiers as a term of endearment. Now, his imperial guard was taller than him, which making him appear shorter than he actually was. But he was actually 5'6". Even if he was short, it would not have mattered. Some of history's greats were short. Take Dan Daly, for example, the two-time Medal of Honor recipient who stood 5'6", the same height as Napoleon. Audie Murphy, a Medal of Honor recipient and the most decorated soldier of World War II, stood 5'5" and was rejected by the Marines and the Navy because of his height. And last but not least, the greatest sniper in the world, who is credited with 542 confirmed kills, Simo Hoya, stood at 5'3". And like I said, height does not matter. There is a saying, dynamite comes in small packages. And you can say this fits perfectly with Dan Daly, Simo Hoya, and Audie Murphy, for they are among history's greats. And that will do it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, feel free to hit that subscribe button that will appear somewhere in this neighborhood. And also hit that notification bell too, so that way you'll be notified on the next time I upload a video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, one last thing before I go. Speaking of dynamites in small packages, let me say something about my great-grandmother. She stood at 5 foot tall and was a German Jew. Don't ask, I really can't explain it. But she was a pistol. Nobody could tell her what to do. You can try, but she'll still follow her way. Perfect example of this, the neighborhood that she lived in had HOAs, and the HOAs tried telling her that she couldn't cut her grass. She told them, watch me, as she proceeded to cut her own grass the way she wanted it cut. Let's just say the HOAs never bothered her again. So, like I said, she best fits the term dynamites in small packages. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.